So let me just say that our thesis for this conference is that we're in a time of transition, that we haven't reached a new equilibrium in terms of public-private relations vis-a-vis emerging market development, that we're getting there. We're moving towards a new equilibrium, but you know, I was talking with someone last night and they were saying, you know, where we were in the 90s compared to today, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of movement. People are uncomfortable about what words like corporate social responsibility or sustainability mean. When we talk about partnership, is partnership really a code word for you giving me money and allowing me to do what I want to do rather than people doing division of labor? So our thought is that we're not going to get to a new equilibrium today, but at least that we can start pushing people in the direction of getting more and more comfortable with working with each other and establishing new norms for how those relationships should work. And the reason why we're in a time of transition, besides the fact that we have this global financial crisis and upcoming American elections, is that we're seeing tectonic shifts in development. My friend Michael Gallus, who's a pretty celebrated regional urban planner in the country, says that we've added something like a quarter of the world's GDP in just the last 10 years. People talk about the fact that there are 2 billion people in the world who make less than $2 a day, but we have 3.3 billion people who have cell phone accounts. 500 million in China alone, and the fastest rising market for cell phone penetration is in Africa. As my friend Luella Chavez D'Angelo will say, we're not understanding global migration patterns as well as we should. She told me at one point that global migration debate is probably about 2 or 3 years away from being where sustainability is now. Another thing that we have a tendency not to appreciate is that the world is urbanizing. When people have traditionally thought about emerging markets, they've thought in terms of rural and agricultural and farming issues. But check me if I'm wrong, but Nairobi, Lima, Manila are becoming huge metropolises and dominating the economies and the overall societies in which they are. We have to start appreciating that the rest of the world is moving from an agrarian or agricultural frame of mind towards embracing manufacturing and towards embracing the knowledge economy. And the other thing that we have to appreciate, though, is that manufacturing itself is an older economic model. In fact, if you look at ILO statistics, only 2 countries added manufacturing jobs over the last few years. In fact, they say China has lost over 15 million manufacturing jobs. It may well be that, you know how 100 years ago about 80% of Americans were in farming and now only 2% are? It may well be that, you know, you have 15% of your population manufacturing now. It may be down to 2% in 10 or 15 years from now, and it'll be new parts of the economy that will be much larger. But it's hard to wrap your mind around just the vast differences, the vast changes that are going on. The embrace of technology is an incredibly disruptive force. But that being said, there's a tremendous sense of this rise in opportunity. I don't know how many of you have woken up at 7 o'clock in the morning in Iquitos or Cochabamba and said, God, I wish I had the Starbucks franchise here. You know, you go to Kenya and you can envision healthcare clinics, or you can envision schools, and you can envision this growth of infrastructure and complexity and opportunity and division of labor. This is where the development community is we're thinking about what could be in a lot of emerging markets. And this is exactly where companies are thinking as well. They're thinking, I can see this. I can see being here in a business kind of way. What do I need to do to make that a reality? And so you're starting to see this convergence of interests and this appreciation that the social investment in these countries can reinforce the economic investment and vice versa. But the problem that we have is not that the world is flat, but that it's fractal. You know how in a crystal has the same structure at the largest piece of it, like a snowflake, and then you get down to the cellular level and it keeps repeating and repeating, and they call that fractal structure. Well, we have rich and poor countries, rich and poor states, rich and poor regions, rich and poor cities, rich and poor neighborhoods, rich and poor people. And one of the particular challenges that we have is how do you get actually to an equilibrium, and especially in a situation where you have folks who have very different access to resources and opportunities at one level than at another. And one of the things that we're struggling with, I think, in terms of the development community is this fractal nature of things rather than this flat nature of things. How, if you do have the resources, can you help folks who want to have access to those resources? And so we're looking for transition mechanisms and ways to make those things happen. The other challenge that we have is that people who have a tendency to have a comfort zone in the way things have been. And you'll see this in some countries that they want to perpetuate a way of the current situation. Somebody is benefiting from the way that the bureaucracy and the current governance or lack thereof works. Somebody is benefiting from older styles of doing things. And you get into a situation where you get these habits of thought, and it's very hard to appreciate your blind spots or to adapt to it. And beyond that, we have to figure out a way to move in a direction where we can appreciate the past, where we can say, yes, we want to have older models and we want to have a farming system and a manufacturing system, but we also want to have an education system that allows people to move in and appreciate and have greater opportunities as well. So where are we going here? The way that I see it is that we're moving away from a situation where business and government and nonprofit groups are in antipathy, or that governments say we can handle everything, or that markets say that they can handle everything, towards a place where we're saying what is the right role for government, the right role for business, the right role for nonprofit organizations, and how do we work together so that each of us can realize the full potential of each of our respective competencies. And in this way, I think our goal is that we want to try and accelerate the future. We want to try and take the vision of what we see that could be, and make it happen faster. So that's our thesis. That's what we want to try and accomplish today. And thank you all so much for being a part of this conference and for helping us work through these issues. So with that, I'm going to transition now. I'd like to introduce Congressman Adam Smith. He hails from the state of Washington, and as you may know, Washington's home to some of the leading internationally engaged companies in the country, Starbucks, Microsoft, Boeing, to name a few. So we're, especially given the presidential campaigns and this time of transition, we're intensely curious about your views about where you think foreign aid is headed and the U.S. role in emerging market development. So with that, please welcome Congressman Adam Smith.